champions gleam. Now he's grown with the mission, got stories to tell. From the indie halls, echoing the ring bell. Every Northwest hero, every rising star. If they're stepping in the ring, he's not far. Oregon Wrestling Observer, where the passion runs strong, never stops, never over. Josh James in the chair, hit record, hit the stage, spotlighting every fighter on the PNW page. Oregon Wrestling Observer, feel the crowd rise up as the voices get louder. From Oregon, Canada, and Washington, he's the man with the plan, bringing wrestling to the world. One show for the fans. Yeah, yeah, raise your hands in. Yeah, 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 raise your hands, hit the mat, feel the roar tonight.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joshua James, and welcome back to Oregon Wrestling Observer. We are live once again with another amazing interview live on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. With me is former WWE Tag Team Champion Deuce Snuka. My friend, welcome to Oregon Wrestling Observer.
Josh, thank you, my man. Appreciate you having me on. Let's get this going, baby.
I'm excited to talk to you because I have a lot of questions to ask you, and I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. I loved you in Deuce and Domino, and also when you were saying that Cherry was your girlfriend, I was jealous of you. I'm going to just say it right now, I was jealous. But at the same time, it's just like I've been wanting to talk to you for quite a while. But how's things been going? How's life been treating you?
Man, I've been going. I have 6 kids. I got 2 grandkids now. So I got businesses that I'm running. So it's I've actually been away from, podcasts and the wrestling business for a hot minute. So yeah. So it's good to get back out here, talk to the fans, talk to, people like yourself. So it's good for me to be back in it.
That's so cool. I appreciate it. I know you were taking a break for a while, but are you working on a project? Are you taking bookings now?
I am taking some bookings now, and basically, maybe we can talk about this more on the back end of things. But I had a big project that actually came into my lap. I can't say too much about it. It's a great, project. And I needed to get back in the wrestling ring. I needed to dust off the rust a little bit and just kind of get things going. I'll say this, Josh, here, this will be good for you, I just want you to remember the words, who's big time and squared circle.
Who's big time and squared circle. Okay.
Yeah, who's big time and then, the word squared circle. Just keep those in mind. Just remember, I said them to you. And then, when everything goes down, you'll be like, no, I remember that. He said it on the podcast. So, yeah, that's what you need to know.
All right. I got to remember that. I'm going to write that down so I can remember that. But again, I appreciate that you're taking the time to be on my podcast. And I have a lot of questions. I also want to talk to you about if it's all right with you, talk about your dad. Like you got into the business most because of him. I know that was he the one that introduced you to wrestling? What was he like as a father?
Okay. So I'll talk about what he was like as a father first, and then I'll talk about getting into the business. So I'll say this is my house had a lot of love in our house. Mm-hmm. And then also it was a lot of intensity as well. Like my dad, even my mom, both intense. And then, my sisters and I. So my dad was a very loving person. He was gone a lot. And so when he was home, he always wanted to go eat Chinese. So every time he got off the plane or whatever, it was like, okay, we always knew we were going to go eat Chinese food at some restaurant. And, lot of that. I would say the other piece is that, he didn't grow up with a lot. And so in many ways, now this is bad. I wouldn't, if you ever have kids, do you have kids, Josh, or no? You do?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. When you have kids, don't spoil them, Josh. Okay. It's not good for them.
Okay.
But because my dad didn't have much growing up, he spoiled me and my sisters. And that was just what he knew. He just loved from his heart, and he just wanted to give us more than what he had. So, I never wanted for anything growing up. We always had a great house to live in. lots of food, lots of clothes, good cars, you know. So I I grew up in that way because my father was very much he was all about let me take care of my family, right? He would always say that.
That's some good advice. Like my dad is the exact same way. He's like, I gotta take care of the family. Like family always comes first. So that I that's one thing like. I love hearing stories about stuff like that, even when it's not about wrestling, but just hearing like how your dad was. And also, I just could picture him right now, just like getting off the airplane. He's like, let's go eat Chinese. Like I could just see it. Like it's probably just like a relaxing time. It's like I'm off the road. I'm going to take this time to relax. Because the travel that he was doing at that time, I can't imagine. Like you guys were doing a lot of traveling too when you were in wrestling. Like I just can't imagine doing that every single day. But you guys did it, which is unbelievable to be honest. Like it's crazy.
Well, and when we were on the road in WWE, see, I mean, we got to come home almost every week, right?
Hmm.
Almost every week, unless we were overseas or something like that. But you know, I got to come home every week.
Okay.
Whereas my dad, he'd be gone, like it'd be nothing for him to be gone for 3 months, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because they were working 7 days a week, you know, sometimes twice a day on Sundays, sometimes, and so he was gone a lot. So, like growing up, it was nothing for us to have Thanksgiving and Christmas early. That was pretty common. You know,
Yeah.
we'd never celebrate Thanksgiving, you know, when it was on. We'd have to have it 2, 3 days early because that's a big wrestling day, right?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. And same with Christmas. Always do Christmas early, New Year's, you know, never, it always early because he's gone. So
Yeah.
it was a lot tougher for him, you know, seeing just how hard they had to grind, how much he had to be gone. You know, and like shoot, if he was in Japan when after so before WWE and after WWE, that's where he actually wrestled first was in Japan.
Oh,
And
okay.
so he would, you know, he'd leave for Japan and he'd be gone months at a time. So it happened a lot. Lot of travel, man.
Oh, I can't again. I can't imagine doing that much traveling. Like I know some people could do it, but it's just like the fact that he did that so much. It's just like I just can't imagine doing it. Like I remember thinking as a little kid, I would love to do that, but now as a grown adult, it's like I don't know if I could do that. But again, you guys could do it, which is crazy and unbelievable. And just hearing your stories about your dad, is he the one that asked if you wanted to be in the business, or were you the one that, hey, Dad, I would love to get into the business? How'd
Yeah.
that happen?
So the second one actually. So I actually, when I was growing up, I wasn't really a fan of wrestling. That
Okay,
was
yeah,
what my dad did, okay?
yeah.
And I was around it my whole life. I grew up in the locker rooms. I grew up on the road, running around the arena, you know, with my dad up and down the road. And so when I got older, and you know, now I'm married, I've got a couple of kids, and if you've ever been doing one thing and you felt like, man, I need to be doing something else, that was me getting into wrestling. You know, I'm working 2 jobs, trying to support my family. And then I just get this overwhelming feeling like, man, I need to get in the wrestling business. And so, you know, I call up my cousin because I trusted him, ask him, you know, what should I do? He's like, you need to talk to your dad. So I call up my dad, and you know, my cousin said, train with your dad. That's who you need to train with. And so once my dad heard, you know, I was ready to get in, and secretly he was hoping I would ask him, but he never once asked me. He was
Okay.
just waiting for me, is what he told me. And so when I told him I want to get in, he said, okay, go quit both your jobs, and I'll buy you a ticket. You fly up here to New Jersey, and you know, you have to leave your family there. And so I left my wife and kids there. You know, with her mom lived in Utah at the time, and so did mine. And so we're like, all right, let's you know, let's pack it up and go. And I flew up to New Jersey where my dad was living at the time, and just started training for about 3 months, I think. before I actually had my first match. And then before my family actually joined me up in Jersey, we were out for that time just so I could train with my dad.
It must have been tough training to do because again, it was probably also like nerve wracking too, since like you're getting into the business, like you probably thinking like I got a lot to live up to because I'm my dad and his legacy, and it's just like was those ever like thoughts into your mind? It's like I gotta live up to the name and all that. Like was there any like thoughts or anything else like that?
Great question. I actually no. See,
Okay.
I there I try to be more aware and observant now that I'm older.
Yeah.
I would say sometimes or maybe many times I'm not aware of kind of like other people. Like sometimes I get really focused and kind of blinders on of whatever it is I might be doing. And I can tell you this. So when I did get into the wrestling ring, it was the most comfortable I've ever been, just about like doing almost anything, especially something physical. What I mean by that is I played baseball. I did track. I played basketball, football. I did a lot of sports growing up. And every time I did a sport, I always felt behind. I wasn't skilled enough. I wasn't fast enough, big enough, blah, blah, blah. All
Yeah.
those things. When I stepped into the wrestling ring, for whatever reason, the first time I stepped in there was just me and my dad at Gino Caruso's gym in New Jersey. And one of my dad's friends, old school friends, we lock up for the first time. And I just remember feeling totally at home. Like that was the overwhelming feeling. And the more we moved, the more I did stuff, and he would have me do stuff. And then sometimes he'd invite one of the other, it was a wrestling school, so some other students would be there, and he'd invite some of those guys to come over and help him, right? Help
Hmm.
teach me. And I just remember moving with them, going, and I was like, I was just picking it up quickly. I felt at home. So, you talk about being behind and then feeling like you're in the right place. That's exactly how I felt. So, I was always grateful to, finally step in the ring with my dad and start getting that training. It was a different environment for me, but a welcome environment.
That's cool. The fact that you it's just like like you weren't nervous at all, but just hearing the stories like your background with sports and just hearing you saying like this you doing all these training and everything else, it's just like I belong here. I'm very comfortable. Like I love this. Like probably in your mind you're thinking I never thought about being a wrestler at all, but when you took that bump and your training is like "I- this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where
Yeah.
I'm like and now when you're all in training, the first time I ever saw you was XWF.
Nice.
That was the first time I ever saw you wrestle. It was XWF with you and your dad. What was that like when you were going to XWF? Like how did that happen?
So that was actually a great thing, because that, even though XWF didn't work well, right? And
Hmm.
that was, if I remember right, that was the Florida. They did that in Florida, right? At
Yes.
Universal Studios and all that. Okay.
Yes.
Then TNA went there later. Okay, I remember now. So you got to remember at that time, like all the guys, like my dad, Hulk Hogan, like all those guys were out of WWE now, right?
Hmm.
And they weren't really using them like they use them now, right? And have used them over the last few years. So the XWF idea was basically, let's do the young guys, but utilize these older guys too, right?
Hmm.
And it was such a great idea, even though the promotion, everything didn't really work out. So I was grateful to be there, because I'm with my dad. We're trying to make this thing work, and they've got a lot of talent behind it. It's just, I don't know, whatever the structure or the money or whatever didn't work out. The great thing that I always remember about that I thought was key, is it was shortly after that basically failed. That's when WWE started to bring the guys back in, right? Like my father and them for Royal Rumbles, right? For
Mhm.
whatever it is, and have them do these little things on WWE TV. And it to me, that was a great catalyst of them meshing together what we see all the time now, right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't also like correct me if I'm wrong. Is like was the XWF like when you mentioned that they started bringing the guys back? Was that also when you got called to WWE at the time for to go to like Deep South Wrestling, or was it OVW that you went to first?
No. So after XWF went away, I had to go back to the Indies. I did
Okay.
Japan a bunch, and I was going back and forth to Japan for 01 is the promotion I went for. And so
Okay.
I was on the Indies doing all of that. I went to Puerto Rico. So I was trying to get into WWE, but I had dark matches and whatnot, and it wasn't working out. No, I actually my dad actually had to take me over there after me, getting pretty upset at him because I'm like 4.5 years on the indies. And you got to remember, I've got a family, right? I got
Yeah.
wife. And when I started wrestling, I think I had 2 kids. Now I've got 3 or 4, I think 4. And now I have 6, right? So I had 6 kids total. And so I'm trying to feed my family, and I'm
Mhm.
a little bit frustrated because I can't get in. And so I basically said to my pops, I said, Dad, you gotta take me to Vince. You gotta introduce me to Vince. I was like, I cannot get in by myself, basically, right? And
Mhm.
and one of the great advices that Dwayne gave me, and I'll never forget it, he's like, you gotta use what you got. That was his advice, right? To utilize my dad basically to help me. He utilized his dad, right? He utilized his connections to get in. He's like, you got to utilize what you've got. So I always remembered that from when I first started. And I hadn't asked my dad for this all this time. And so I finally said, you got to introduce me to Vince. Just let me talk to him. I'll do all the talking. And my dad didn't want to take me. He was like, no, they're going to call you. They'll let you in. He didn't want to take me. And I had to literally get in my dad's face and say, Dad, you got to take me. We were driving. I pulled the car over, got in his face, respectfully,
Yeah, yeah,
respectfully,
yeah.
lovingly, but boldly telling my dad what I needed done. Finally, after I don't know how long we were talking about it, finally he gives in, and I flipped that car around so fast. I was like, yeah, yeah, okay. Flipped it around, drove to Raw, and that's when he introduced me to Vince. And I did all the talking. My dad just said, "Hey, brother, here's my boy, and you've met him." And Vince says hello. I ask him if I can, I need a job. I'd love to come work for him, basically, right? And he said something that I was prepared in my mind that he would say. He basically said, well, I know you've had a few dark matches here. I don't think you're ready. And, as soon as he said that, my backup line was, well, how about OVW? And he said, yeah, you know what? I think that might work. Yeah, that could work. And, let me see. And then let's see if we can figure that out. Said goodbye, thanked him, everything. 30 minutes later, John Laurinaitis, who was doing the hiring and firing back then, right? He was
Yeah.
Vince's right-hand man, found me 30 minutes later, and they offered me to go to OVW and put me under contract, and that's how I actually got in.
Wow, that's crazy. That really cool. And again, you were being respectful when you were telling your dad. It was like a son, like being honest with like you're hungry for at this moment, and you're going to OVW. And where did the whole Deuce and Domino tag team start? Like, how did that start? Like, how where did that come from?
It came out of frustration again. That's going to be my whole
Oh,
podcast
okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Story of my life, man. Well, I think too, right, is I'm somebody, and everybody's built a little different, right? But I've noticed
Mm,
common patterns in all people. And I'm somebody who I can tend to get comfortable. Like I like my clothes comfortable. Like I want the air, my pillows, like I like comfortable. And
I'm the
one
same.
you're the same, right?
I'm the same.
Okay. And so when I get a little bit comfortable, like that's not a good place to be for progress. Comfort's
Mhm.
not a good place. And so I get a little frustrated if my progress isn't happening. And it's probably because I like to be comfortable, right?
Uh-huh.
But once I get frustrated, that's the other side of me, is like, I just want this thing to happen. And now I've been in OVW for, so I almost lose my job. Now I've been there for, I think it was 2 years, almost 2 years. And so that's a while, right? And i'm
Mhm.
i'm not making a ton of money. My family's still in Vegas, and I'm flying back and forth every so many months to visit my family. And so it's tough, man. And
Oh
i'm
yeah, I
i'm
can imagine.
frustrated. And so Domino, he was not under OVW contract or WWE developmental contract. He was there at OVW as part of the wrestling school, okay,
Right.
under Jim Cornette and Danny Davis, who owned it. So he was in the, the OVW classes. So all of us developmental guys were in a class, and then if you were an advanced OVW student, you could train with the developmental guys, right? So,
Mhm.
whatever number of developmental guys there were, 10, 15, 20, whatever. And then you had these, whatever the number was, 5, 10 OVW advanced guys. And so we're all training together. And so that means our workout times are different than like the OVW classes. And so Domino and I used to work out at the same gym. And basically, at one point, I think I said to him, I was like, "Hey, we should just work out together, man." I don't know why I really said it. Just like, we go basically at the same time. I see you in class and whatnot. I was like, "Man, we should just train together." So he said yes, and we started training together. And the more we got to know each other, the more he's telling me about his character that he was doing. And he basically said, if you know the comedian Andrew Dice Clay, if not, you can look him up. But he goes, yeah, I'm kind of doing an Andrew Dice Clay gimmick. And, when I studied Andrew Dice Clay, he said that he based his comedic character off of a greaser. And
Mhm.
as soon as he said that word, it was like magic in my ears. Is He said greaser, and right away, so my brain, it comes from the thinking of, my dad would always talk about, son, you got to be different. You got to do something different. And so I knew I needed some type of a character. I needed something different, right? That hadn't been done. So when he says greaser, I'm thinking, oh, that's never been done. No, that's very different. That's cool. And I grew up on greaser movies, The
Mhm.
Outsiders, Grease 1 and 2, and right. And
Yeah.
so I was all about, I thought that would be cool. That's something I could do. We should do greasers. And when I said it to Domino, he's like, yeah, man. And then we could have, like, we could come out in a car, and we could get a girl and put her on roller skates. And so he was, incredibly creative like that. If we're giving credit here, if I came up with the idea, then Domino came up with all the other great stuff that we ended up doing. So it was, yeah, he was great like that.
Yeah, that is really cool to hear because like I remember when I first saw you guys, I was also trying to think, and I even asked my dad, it's like, was there ever a tag team that looked like these guys, like greasers? And he's like, no, not that I could remember. And I was just like thinking, like, that's really cool, like different, and it got that grease feeling and all that kind of stuff. You got Cherry there. Where did Cherry come into this place? How did you guys get her to join?
So I had met her first on the Independence. And so I knew her. We'd done a few shows together because she's from that New Jersey
Mm,
area, New York
yeah,
area, right? So
yeah.
we'd done some stuff. And then she was there in OVW as part of, basically trying to get a job there as well, because she'd been on the Independence for a hot minute. And so Domino and I went to OVW. I think it was TV day, the day that we filmed TV. And so we actually got there early. And I said, okay, let's go sit up in the stands and let's just watch all the talent come in, right? All the wrestlers. And let's just see if we see somebody that could fit. Basically, did we have her name yet? I don't know. We might have or not. But basically, the girl on roller skates was like, okay, is we were looking for somebody to play that role. So we just watched everybody come in the door, and every girl that came in, how about her? How about, we're trying to just going back and forth, he and I. And once she walked in, right, we're like, well, maybe her, I know her, and we got to talking. And then once we decided, okay, let's see if she's interested and let's try. And that's basically how it happened. And then, the rest is history.
Yeah, I was watching some of the old OVW videos on YouTube of your guys' promos. It's it's fun to watch, and it's just like it's very different compared to what other wrestlers have done. Again, I've never seen any greaser wrestlers before, and I remember watching a clip from you. Is that I think you were getting ready to give someone an elbow drop, but you were just combing your hair. You're getting ready. You're just moving, and next thing you know, bam! You give him very creative stuff. And again, you guys were heels, but was there times where you're thinking like we're trying to be bad guys, but the people are digging us? They're like cheering for us. Has that ever happened?
No, it was always for us to kind of be that rough, street kind of guys. Like when we were talking about the characters and what that was like is especially at WWE, they wanted us to have more of a reason why we act like greasers, why we wear the leather jackets, because obviously, we're in the 2000s at that time, and they're like, okay, why do these guys dress like that? And what I didn't realize is there was a whole greaser culture that actually they have conventions, everything. Everybody dresses up. They bring the cars into Vegas and everything. So there is a whole greaser culture. And so basically it was that we love that greaser look, mentality, everything, that this is just how we dress right in the 2000s. So us being more that hard edge, heel type, that was always kind of the thing that that we understood our characters to be. So it was never the thought of baby faces, but that could have been fun too. That could have been fun.
Yeah, I could have seen like it probably take a while, but I could see Deuce and Domino turning babyface. It would probably be different. Like you guys would have to change. No, I don't think you have to change your style. I think it's more like you guys are still the same, but not white meat baby faces. You could be just like, yeah, we're good guys, but you say or look at us wrong. Well, it doesn't matter if you're good or bad. I would still kick your teeth down your throat.
For sure.
Yeah. What was it like when you found out that you guys were going to win the OVW tag titles? What was that like?
The OVW tag titles. Okay. The first time that we won them, man, I forget who we beat when we won them the first time. Do you know? I don't remember who we beat the first time. Maybe it was Casey James and Roadkill. Maybe. I think that might have been it. But I mean,
it was Chris Cage and The Miz.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
No kidding. Chris Cage and The Miz. That was who we beat for the first time. Dang, I forgot all about that. Okay, very cool. I did not realize. Thanks for the reminder, my man.
No problem, brother.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually don't remember that time of winning the titles that first time. There's so many events in between there. I can tell you this though, is winning titles in wrestling, right, is I grew up with a certain mentality, like with my dad, talking to Dwayne, right, is there's a mentality at a high level, like when you're main event guys like they are, right, is that you think about titles and that kind of a thing differently. And so I tried to think of it that way in my own mind as well. And it wasn't as much about winning the titles as like, how can we do the best piece of business? Like, how can we entertain the fans? And if winning the titles is part of that, then great. If it's not, great. It's just whatever's the best piece of business we can do. So I come from that school of thinking when it comes to that that deal. So I don't see it the same as like if you're, winning a state championship or you're winning a NCAA championship. It's There's some of that same there, but it's a little different at the same time. I'm not going to say it's not cool. Don't get me wrong.
Oh
It,
yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was cool, but just a different kind of cool for different reasons.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. It's so for what it sounds like you're saying, like, this is so cool that I finally win the championship. All right, what do we do next? What's the next thing for us to do? Like, instead of like you're thinking like you're so hyped up, like how some wrestlers are when they win a championship belt. But for what it sounds like, for what you're telling me, is like I grew up with this, and I know winning this is important to me, and it's great. But I want to know, what can we do next with these titles, or what can we do for our next opponents? Is that what you're?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, because
absolutely.
yeah, because like, I like that mentality. Actually really smart. And again, it's cool to win a championship belt. That's the one thing I could tell. But it's just for what you're telling me. It's just like, what can we do for our next character? What can we do for our characters? What can we do for our next opponents? Or what can we do? How do we lose these? What's the best idea? Like that?
Yes, 100%. And I learned it again first from my father, listening to him talk about it, because there were times where they wanted my pops to win the title, and he would talk about. He's like, "Well, what if we do this? Because this might be better for business. We could." Make more money this way. The fans would appreciate it this way. What if we do this? And it wasn't about if he should get the title or not. If that made sense business wise, right? Then let's do it. But if it doesn't, let's do this instead. And I heard it multiple times. And then watching and listening to Rock do the same thing, because I would visit him on the road sometimes. He was where I was or whatever, and he would tell me to come watch the show, or he was in town or something. So I would, and I would, there was, for instance, he was Intercontinental Champion at one point, and then I was with him when he wasn't Intercontinental Champion, and somebody else had it, and him talking about, right, like, this guy really loves the championship, and understanding that it's one thing to love the championship, it's another thing to love the business and how you can do the best business. It's not about the title. It really isn't.
I like that.
Um,
That's good advice. I really do like that. I feel like that's a thing to remember, and that's a really good idea. Now going from OVW Deep South and now to the main roster, what was like getting that call saying, "Hey, you're coming onto the main roster. You're going to SmackDown." What was that like?
that was huge, incredible. Now that I got excited about, I was crazy excited about that, because I had been in OVW at this point for 3.5 years. I was 4.5 years on the independents trying to get into OVW. So I'm basically, right, I'm like 8 years deep in this thing now. I've got what is that? Is that a a doctorate at this point in wrestling?
Pretty
Right?
much.
Yeah, I got a doctorate in wrestling at this point. And so when they called us up, I mean, I can't tell you how ecstatic I was. I was like, this is the best thing ever, right? Because now I can see, okay, I get the opportunity to make more money. I get the opportunity to finally get on the road, because I've been in OVW. And like at one point here, you'll like this. This is funny. Is while I'm in OVW, my sons are growing up on the road with me. So my two oldest boys, I would not take my daughter on the road. Sorry, Pinina, you're not going. You don't get to go on the road with me. But my two oldest sons, so I've got four sons. My two older ones, they were young. They're kids, like, geez, 3, 4, 5, 6, like in that range. They're young.
Yeah.
So I take them on the road with me and Domino and CM Punk and Cody and all of us. And so they grow up in the locker room with me. So they saw the boys, and they would see some of the boys go up to TV while we're still in OVW, right? And so
Mhm.
I remember in particular when they saw Crime Time debut and they're wrestling on TV, like my oldest boy, they might have both cried. I don't remember, but I distinctly remember my son crying, my son Jamesa, he crying because he's like, why is Crime Time up there, right? And you're still here. He was crying for me, right? That we're still in Louisville, Kentucky. I love Louisville, but I'm not on TV at WWE though. So he's crying for that we didn't make it. So that was tough, seeing that happen. So now we get the call, and I'm going to debut from, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, which has significant meaning to me. And so it was the best, man. Best ever.
That's so cool. Really cute to hear too. That's really cute. That shows you your son was your number one fan. Like he really wanted to see you guys succeed. That's really cool. And
well,
again,
my son might have been my fan, but my daughter, my youngest daughter, we call her Bones. She's actually named after my sister Tamina. Tamina's real name, right? Her shoot name is Sorona. So my younger daughter, her name's Sorona, we call her Bones. She actually loved Cody. Cody was her favorite all the time. Yeah, where's Cody? Where's Cody at the shows, right?
Oh, that's cute. That's funny. That's just so cool just to hear like the story. And again, you're just coming onto the main roster, and you guys got the car. You're driving in like. I get my guess is like you guys were talking about the car thing, but you didn't think that would actually be part of your entrance. Was that like when you guys saw the car? What was that like?
So this is what's cool about that is, remember when I said greaser thing and Domino agreed and let's do this thing, he was like, yeah, we can get a car and get this girl on skates and the whole deal. We're gonna call her Cherry and all that, right? That was all Domino.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really think about the car situation too much. Like I was more concentrated on the ring stuff, telling the stories, like all that. Right. And what's great about the way he thought is he was such a wrestling fan growing up, right? And so he saw the car, as part of the gimmick. And so now we get up there to TV and they have a car for us to debut. And I mean, it's crazy, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like here it is coming together. And as soon as he sees the car, Domino, he goes, I'm driving. I'm like, all right. I was like, absolute, knock yourself out, man.
It's
right?
like this was your idea that you got.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was like, I came up with the whole gimmick, man, and we're here now. So you want to drive the car, drive the car.
Yeah, you guys always had good cars. I'm not gonna lie; those were really good looking cars. I gotta say, really
crazy. Good. Yeah, whatever city we were in for, they would get somebody basically that rent those cars from wherever we were at, just like they would do with the motorcycles, right? For the guys that did those. Yeah, it was crazy. Just seeing what car they get us each week for TV. So sick.
That is so cool. And also just you explaining Domino's how hyped he was with the cars. Like I could just picture it in my head because I have a friend who's like that too. He has a YouTube channel and he talks about cars and all that kind of stuff. So just hearing this, I'm just thinking of like Domino, and I'm also thinking about my friend because it just sounds so cool. And now from going onto the main roster, and you guys are told that you're going to win the tag titles, what was the feeling going through your mind? Like, was that the same feeling you were feeling like in OVWs? Like, we're going to win these. What can we do next? Was that the same feeling?
I don't know if I necessarily thought about it's the same feeling. Like, what are we going to do next? I was more like, okay, that's what the office wants. They want to put the titles on us. Okay, great. How do we go out there and tell a great story and give something for the fans, right? So again, because of the upbringing, it wasn't about that we're going to win the titles. Is like, we got to make this story make sense, because Kendrick and London had held on to those titles forever, right? And nobody could beat them and everything. So our story had to make sense that, okay, how come Deuce and Domino beat them all of a sudden after, and I don't know, I think they'd held it for like a year and a half or something crazy like that.
A full
And so,
year.
yeah. So they'd had them for forever. So it had to make sense story-wise that we beat them. And of course we did the thing on the outside where he tries to, backflip on the Domino and he moves out of the way and now he's out of the match. Now we can go to work on one person. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
See, so to me, that part's more important of telling that story, that we do that right. And then, okay, the titles are part of the story. And I think that's what's really essential here is understanding what's the business, what's the finish, what's the promoter want essentially, and then trying to facilitate that with inside the pro wrestling world, right? You're trying to do that. Again, if the title makes sense to change hands, let's do it. If it doesn't though, then what's the best course of action? What's the best story we can tell?
That's really cool, and I'm happy that you guys won the tag titles. Now, and there's one thing about the tag titles is like when you guys were going to go to Night of Champions, and what was your reaction when you found out that you're wrestling your dad and Sergeant Slaughter? What was that like?
Favorite match ever.
Really?
Match ever. Yes. Yeah. For me.
Yeah.
For me. I can't speak for Domino, but for me, for sure. And for me, because there's multiple reasons, but think about it. I mean, how often was I going to get to wrestle my father on a pay-per-view for the titles on WWE pay-per-view? I only did it once. It never happened again, right? And so in that sense, you look at that, it's like, man, that was a moment captured in time on film that I can always go back to, right? I can show my kids. I can show them. I got 2 grandkids now, man. I can show my grandkids, and it's like, I got to do this with your grandfather, which, I think that is incredible. So that for me, that's why.
How did you find out that you were going to have a match with your dad? How did you find that?
Great. I don't remember exactly. Obviously, they had to have thought about that, beforehand. But I do remember my dad being there and me knowing that, he was going to come and whatnot. And us discussing, okay, this is what we need to do for the finish and all of that. I don't remember exactly like being told, okay, we're going to bring your father in and he's going to tag up with Sergeant Slaughter. I don't remember all those conversations. I maybe as we go along, maybe I'll remember, but I just remember being incredibly excited about it and then nervous because, okay, we got to tell, again, going to that mentality, we got to tell a great story, right? We gotta go give the fans something great. So I got, my mind would get more caught up in that than necessarily maybe some of the coolness of the information or the coolness of the moment. I think I mentioned, sometimes I get blinders on it and I'm only looking, okay, what do I got to do on this? I got to take care of that. And I think maybe sometimes I didn't maybe enjoy the moment as much as I could have. I'm a little bit older, a little bit more aware now. And so I try to enjoy moments a little better.
Like, was this going through your mind? Like you're trying to stay focused and try to think of the next spot, but the other half of it's like, I'm wrestling my dad. This is so cool. But I got to focus on the match. But at the same time, you're just like, but I'm getting to wrestle my dad. I like the little kid in you probably just like thinking like, I'm wrestling my dad, something that he's been doing for so long, and I'm facing him for a championship belt. This is so cool. Like, was that going through your mind too?
I can tell you when I did have that moment. It was not beforehand. It was not during the whole match. The moment it happens is when I'm on the top rope and I look at Sergeant Slaughter, right? And I do the thing to my dad, right? Where I like, yeah, see, I can do the super fly too, right? And I mock him. that was the moment where I'm like, "Friggin', this is cool. Like this is cool, right?" I
Yeah.
did have that moment right there, knowing that we were going to do that spot or whatever, and then, you know, just kind of like, being a jerk to my father, basically, that I'm gonna hit the super fly too. So that was exciting, having that moment in the ring, and then of course the finish and everything afterwards. Yeah, so exciting.
Yeah, what was it like after the match? Like, when did you and your dad talk about the match, or like what was that like?
Yeah, coming back through the curtain. I mean, my my dad was a little bit worried about the finish, like doing the splash off the top rope,
Mm,
because his ankle was jacked up. He'd heard it on some indie shows, and
mm,
so he does it, right, of course, and we come to the back, and now we're just excited because it all came together, and it went well, right? It went really well, and so, for us, I think it was exciting because we got to do it, but exciting like, oh man, we pulled it off, because sometimes you don't know, right?
yeah.
Like, you could have the best plans and think, oh man, this is going to be great, and then you get out there, and you stink up the joint. It's not good at all.
Hmm.
But because that worked out well, it was like, okay, all hugs and kisses, right? It was cool.
Because like I remember watching that pay per view, and I was just thinking like, this is a good match. This is like, I wonder if Snuka and Sarge are gonna win. And to be honest, I was actually kind of rooting for them because
I know you
longtime
were.
fan,
I
a
know you
longtime
were.
fan. But the thing is just like, because I wanted to see like, how would this work out with Sarge and Superfly? I'm curious, what would it be like if for them as tag team champions? But when you guys won, I was just like, damn it, they won. But at the same time, just hearing the story is just like, this is really cool to hear. Is like, this is such a good story. But also, I do want to ask one thing. This is the pay per view, also the same night that, and again, like, what the whole thing with Benoit.
Yeah.
What was that like in the dressing room? Like, Benoit was not there. Like, if you don't mind me asking, like,
Yeah,
what?
great question. So I remember that when that happened, right? It
Mhm.
was crazy. Like, everybody, and all we knew was that he was dead, family was dead. That's all we really knew. And so I remember they were like, okay, well, let's record. So what maybe a lot of people don't know is they had people go in the booth to record, like, just give your thoughts on Benoit, give your thoughts on this and that, because he was a big part of WWE, right? He'd done so
Mhm.
much for the business, right?
Yeah.
Aside from all the terrible that happened that we know now, right? Before that, at this moment, nobody knew, just that they were dead.
Yeah.
And so they wanted us to go and film, basically a tribute kind of a thing. And I remember when it came my time to go, and everybody went to go film. When it came my time to film, I was sitting there in front of the camera. I couldn't say anything. I tried to. I
Mhm.
tried to talk. I couldn't say anything. Nothing came out of my mouth. And so I'm just sitting there not saying anything. And then finally, I think I just got up without saying not a, I was like, I don't have anything to say. I don't know what to say. And so they're like, oh, no problem. And so that was, for me at least, that's what it was like during that time when that all happened. Is I couldn't say much. I didn't have a lot to say because it was terrible,
Mhm.
right? It was I don't know if eerie feeling. That's not the feeling it was. It was somber. I'd probably be the best word I could think of. It was super somber, quiet. Is like we still had a job to do, but it's like you didn't necessarily feel like doing it, but you knew, people paid money to watch us wrestle, so we've got to get out there and perform.
Yeah, it's just I remember that night very well. It's just you might not have found it eerie, but for me, it was just like, this is eerie. Like, now knowing like where I was crying for Benoit and for his family for Nancy and Daniel. And the thing is, just when L came out, I was still sad to hear like what happened, because again, like with the concussions and all that kind of stuff, like it was just eerie for me. Like I don't know why it was eerie, because I didn't know Benoit, but for me it's just like, I don't know, like this was just very eerie just to think about. Like
For sure.
but you guys were with Benoit in the dressing room, and you got to know him. And um like what was it like after, when you guys all found out the results?
Now that was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it was eerie, at least to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right before, it was somber. You didn't know, there was a lot of unsurety. There was a lot of like, you just don't know what to think, what to do, like how to act, because everything's unsure. And then you find out, and now it's like, oh dang, like right now it's eerie.
Mm.
Now
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, because all kinds of thoughts are going through your mind. You start to think of loved ones, like your own family, like how are they doing. And when and that's the thing, right, is when tough events happen in your life, any tough event, and this is a crazy tough event, right, it causes you to reflect. It causes you to think about what's really important to you.
Hmm.
And so I would say that there was a lot of those thoughts going around the locker room, for sure. A lot of people calling the family, messaging the family, for sure.
Yeah. Again, it's just it was a tough year. Like again, with a good pay per view, but then next thing you know, you're finding out what happened. You're just like, well, I don't know. Like again, you didn't know what to say. You were just like, worried. Like what do we do now? Like was it like that?
Got to go back to work, man. That's
Yeah.
what it was like. It was like, we got to go back to work. It's time to work.
Hmm.
So show's on. Let's go.
Hmm. Now with the tag team champions, you're holding the belts for quite a while. Then you lost them to Matt Hardy and MVP, and next thing you know, they're starting to becoming like a downfall with Deuce and Domino. You get rid of Cherry, you bring in Maurice. Like, what was that idea for? Like, for bringing in Maurice with you and just dumping Cherry? What was that?
That was creative. They that
Okay.
was their idea. They wanted to do that. So like, okay. And I think part of the idea was she was going to more modernize us. It was kind of the idea. And then she got over on her own. And then they took her from us, right? And she was doing her own thing, which is great for her, right? She's had a great career. So but that's basically what happened. Pretty short version is they wanted to remove her, put Maurice with us, and then make us more modern, was part of the plan. That's the way
Okay.
I understood it.
What about when you split from Deuce and Domino? Like, what was that like for you guys when you found out we're splitting? Like,
That was hard in the sense that we'd spent so long developing Deuce and Domino, who they were, how they interacted, how they talked. Like I knew who Deuce was, right? Domino knew who Domino, and we knew how to interact. Like we'd really built it in OVW and in Deep South. Like we knew what to do. And so when it was time to split it up, it was like, oh my gosh, like what are we gonna do now, right? And
mhm.
so that was a little bit of I was in flux a little bit right there, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do now, and how that was going to work.
Was it nerve wracking when you were gonna go on a singles run, like after when splitting from Deuce and Domino? Like, was it kind of nerve wracking? Did you feel nervous or kind of scared or anything, because you guys were always together as a tag team or anything? Like, okay, what do I do next? Or like, was it ever feeling like that?
I don't think there was a feeling like that, because I'd done a lot of singles
Yeah.
competition and whatnot before Deuce and Domino, so I wasn't worried that way. I think I was more worried character wise, not
Okay.
so much doing singles, but just character wise, because when I started doing Sim Snuka, I think I was still trying to figure out like what is that character, like who is that, even though it's me, how much of me, like which parts, right? Because it's different. It was different than Deuce. So I think I was still trying to figure that out, especially with the whole legacy thing and Randy Orton and Cody and all that. So I was trying to figure that out.
Because I remember thinking like you were going to join Legacy. I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like now knowing like your Sim Snuka, and it's just like, this is perfect. Like I think this would be great. But when they didn't accept you, I was actually legit pissed off because it was like, you guys got someone that could be former tag team champion. This guy can literally help. And but I get that it probably I just don't know. But like what was gonna happen, like what happened next after when the whole thing with Legacy didn't go, like what did you do next after that? Were you still doing like house shows or anything else like that?
No, no, there was a time period where I was pretty much off the road for a little bit. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
And when you got that call, it was saying you were being released. How did that feel, like when you were let go from WWE?
Oh my gosh, I was so relieved. I was so happy to get out of there. No, yeah, that was a tough one. It's interesting though, even though that was a tough time, is my dad was actually in town when I got released. So my dad was living, where was he living at that time? I don't know. Not We were living here in Arizona,
Mhm.
and my dad was in town for whatever reason, and I can tell you, I knew exactly where I was driving, just passing the house, and Johnny Ace called me, telling me I was going to be released. So yeah, that was a tough time, because I'd spent so much time trying to get there, and now you're not there, right? And
Yeah.
so tough. It was like that's not the thing you want to hear. At least I didn't at that time. I was not ready to be released. Uh, but it was actually the best thing for me, to be honest with you.
Oh,
Actually
okay.
was.
Oh, that's good to hear. What did you do after when with WWE? Did you continue with the Indies, or did you just like, I'm gonna take a break? What was the?
I tried to do the indies a little bit. I didn't try that hard, but
Hmm.
I did try to do some other stuff. But again, not very hard. Um, I I all of a sudden I had to get a real job, right? I was like, I had to figure out, because I have a family, and at this point I've got 4 kids now, 4 of the 6, and so I'm trying to figure out, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do now? And what I actually transitioned to is basically what I do now. Is I started working with athletes, was where I started. So I had always trained my kids, even when I was on the road. Like I would work with my kids because my dad was this incredible athlete. Okay.
Hmm.
And I always wondered, because I was an okay athlete. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't like lights out either.
Hmm.
So I was good. I was athletic, not the star guy, um, most of the time, right? And so I always wondered, is could you make the star guy? Like, could I make my dad? That was my question in my mind.
Yeah.
And so because I wasn't sure, I thought, okay, I can only control what I can control. I can't control how big my kids are going to be. I can't control how fast or sorry, how big, how strong, how tall, like all those things. But I could control their speed. I could make them fast. I could make them jump high. I could make them athletic, right? I knew I could work on those things because I'd
Yeah.
worked on those things before wrestling, right? Like I
Hmm.
was always trying to dunk the basketball. So I'd work on all these jump programs, and I was trying to do that, right? Eventually I did dunk the basketball. So fast forward now, I get let go, and I've been working with my kids all this time, and people would ask me all the time, because they would see my kids perform well in sports, and my kids were incredibly athletic,
Hmm.
and they did really well. They were star players, like every one of them. So And so when they would step on the court, that's what would happen. Like, especially my oldest daughter, incredible volleyball player. She won championships in volleyball and basketball.
Oh
And
wow.
then, so parents would come up to me and they'd say, "Hey, what'd you do with your kids? You know, whether it be my sons or daughters, or what'd you do?" And I would, "Oh, I trained them." And they're like, "Oh, well, can you help my kid too?" And that was my transition. Is I just started helping on the physical side, helping these young athletes. And then what it ended up becoming was I really ended up working on the mental side, the emotional side. And I took a lot of what I learned in wrestling, a lot of what I learned from my dad, like that mentality of what's most important. How do we take care of the business? How do we give people what they want? I took a lot of that stuff. And with all this, like I would do all these seminars, read all these books, self-help, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that there was a pattern to all of it, to winning, to success, to overcoming mental problems, relationships, success, there's a pattern to it. And I treated it like wrestling. I treated it like a wrestling match, actually.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
oh yeah, and it works all the time if you basically apply these principles of, I'll give you one, that main event mentality, right? That I like to talk about, that Rock talked about, that my dad talked about. Cody would talk about it all the time. So we'd be in OVW, me and Cody would be up and down the road, and he's telling me about the way his dad thought, how his dad's a main event guy, how he'd sell out Madison Square Garden, how he was, this incredible main event thinker. And so Cody would always be like, "I want to be the main event. I want to sell out Madison Square Garden. I want to be the guy." That was in OVW. Now look at him, right?
Yeah.
So imagine taking that thinking and telling a young coach, a young parent, a young athlete, or a veteran athlete, or a veteran business person, and hey, instead of just trying to make this amount of money, what if you think the main event and try to do it like this? What if instead of trying to win the game, you try to dominate the game? Instead of trying to make the team, you're the starter. That main event mentality, see? And so that's what I'll talk to people or organizations about, and basically implement those wrestling principles that are just true principles, and you can apply it to any part of your life.
That's really cool. That's actually really cool. I like that. That's some great advice. It kind of just it just you have the feeling like okay, like you're thinking like, all right, I gotta be prepared. Like I think of it like as a wrestling match, like, but you're not wrestling, but you're like kind of like booking in your own head, like how this is
Yes,
a okay.
absolutely.
That's some great advice. I like that. That's really good. Like that's really creative too, because I never would have thought of that. Because like sometimes if I think I'm gonna try to do something like a wrestler, probably some people might think I'll be looking crazy. But that's some really good advice. I like that because like for me, just like when I used to do commentary for a wrestling company, I used to practice in the mirror.
Yep.
But there's been times where by a wrestler by the name of Bad Blood, he used to give me advice, and it's just like just be you, pretend like just like he used to like he would be honest with me. He would do the exact same thing like how you're telling me. So it just made me think about that. It's just like Bad Blood would tell me pretty much do what you're doing, like what you're doing with people. Just like make it like think of something like think of like a wrestling or something like that. Like I'm talking to you right now. I'm trying to do that right now, but I'm still in practice mode. I'm still in practice
All
mode. But
good.
that's some great advice. That's some really good advice right there. That's really good. Um, but also like, are you still like you're still doing that right now, right? You're still helping practice the kids with sports and everything else. You still doing that? Is that the good?
Yes. So I still do that. I don't work with only athletes as much, like young athletes. I still do some of that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm transitioning more to basically, if you're an elite athlete, elite coach, or you're in the public eye and you've got big problems, big struggles,
Mm-hmm.
mental, emotional, relationship, stage fright. You're trying to keep it together. So I'm transitioning more to working more with that group of people. Is those that, because I grew up my family in the public eye, right? I've been in the public eye. I've had family in the public eye, and when you're trying to hold that all together, it's tough, and you need a certain mentality. You need a certain emotional control, fortitude. You need a certain work ethic. You need certain people around you, a certain moral compass to hold all that together. And I feel like, because I've had those experiences now, been at the highest level in professional wrestling, and and now getting to help other people, like, it's cool. You want to talk about something cool? This is an actual championship for me, is when I see a team or an organization win in their, let's say, their championship, and they've never done it before. Now that's the coolest thing. That never gets old to me, right? Like, I worked with a Division I coach that they'd never beaten a couple of teams in college, and to help them and to see his team beat these two teams that they'd never beaten before. I love that. That's what I love seeing now, or see somebody, emotionally, they haven't been able to handle these problems like they would before. Now they're like, they're strong now. It's all wrestling, man. It's just all that. It's all the wrestling mentality, that main event mentality.
I gotta remember that, because like I just thinking about all that advice you were saying. Like, back in February, I left the wrestling company I was doing commentary for. Not to personal problems or anything else like that. I was just dealing with a lot of mental health, so I literally had to leave, because like I didn't want to force myself to keep working at a wrestling company and end up hating it. I've loved wrestling since I was 2, and I didn't want to lose that love. So I literally had to force myself. I had to get out. And I literally took a break from a lot of the stuff that I was doing, because mentally I needed it. And just hearing your advices just made me think, my mom were always helping me out with the stuff like that. And I even talked to my doctor about it, and I just told him that I was dealing with a lot of mental, like, and I just told him I decided just to go back as a fan. And he said, I think that's the best decision you made. You go back as a fan. And maybe down the road you'll go back. Maybe, I don't know, sure. But what you're doing, keep on doing. And I decided to come back doing this.
Nice.
And just hearing your advices made me even, excited to do more stuff. And just hearing all what you're telling me, your story, and the advices, what you're doing for these athletes and everything else, just like, that's inspiring. I'm gonna say right now, that's very inspiring. And just hearing you talk about like the team winning their first ever like win from the team that they were facing, was it like, for you, you were there, probably you were there watching, right? And you're thinking like, you know of all the championships that I have won, this is great. I'm happy to see these guys, like, how like they're getting that feeling, they're there, and this is a great accomplishment. I'm happy with this.
Oh yeah, I love that every time. So every time somebody asks me to speak, and I'll speak in all different situations, to youth groups, to businesses, the different companies and whatnot, organizations, and every time they get a result they couldn't get before, and they got it at least partially because of some of the wrestling things that I teach, right, or share with them. I love it every time. It's why I love what I'm doing now. And it's why, one of the reasons why I think I went into wrestling, not I think, I know. It's one of the reasons I went into the wrestling business, is because people listen to me simply because I was on TV, right? Because I'm the son of Superfly Jimmy Snuka. I've got some family ties in the business, and I was there. And now I can talk about it from a perspective that most won't ever have, right?
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to be famous. It's another thing, or at least partially famous. It's another thing to have family that's famous or to grow up in it. It's another thing to be there, be or sorry, grow up in it, be there, and then out of it. Now, like not everybody, most people don't recognize me. I'm just a normal guy on the street, right? Even though I've been there. And so those are three very distinct perspectives on life. And so because I've gained a different awareness, a different perspective on life, I get to see things a little differently than maybe you didn't think of. Kind of like we were talking about the championship belts, right? Is that unless you've been around somebody that understands winning a championship at that main event, high level, and what it's for, you don't know that. You don't understand that thinking if you've never been taught it. And only because I'm the son of the Superfly and I heard it, and I heard others talk about it in that way, that's because that's where my training came from. And so I didn't see winning titles the same way. That unique perspective helps me help other people. It really does.
Again, that's very inspiring. That's really cool, man. That makes me really happy for you that you were able to find something after wrestling, and just hearing the story what you're doing after wrestling. That's so cool. That's really really cool, man. I'm very happy for you, big time. But also, I want to ask you, and if you're okay with me asking, uh, when your dad passed away, like I know he wasn't doing the best in health, but when you found out when your dad passed, like it was probably the toughest thing to ever hear is that your father passed. Like for
That
me,
was a tough time. Yeah, very tough. And it was tough, but it was necessary. So I'm very much, I try to, we can feel about a lot of things, get all emotional about a lot of things, right? But
hmm
sometimes that's the best thing, even though you may still want that. Do I wish my dad was still around? Yes. In the situation that he was in, though, in the condition of life that he was in, no, right? It was better for him to not have to deal with all the health problems and everything else. He was just suffering at that point, right?
hmm
And I'm grateful that I had the time with him that I had. And instead of trying to miss him so much, not that I don't miss him, I do,
yeah,
but instead of trying to just miss him or cry over the fact that he's not here anymore, I found that it's more about, like, he left me a great name. He left me a great legacy, if you will, right, in what he did, what he accomplished. And so now it's my turn to take what he left, and I need to expand on that. I need to do more with that because he was always going to die. He just happened to die at that time. And so my perspective is, was that sad? For sure. Do I miss him? Absolutely. Do I have a responsibility to do something with all that he left me though? I really do. And that's why I really like what I'm doing now, and the way I'm trying to apply myself and helping other people, on a bigger scale is really what I'm doing now. Is I really believe certain people are born to do certain things, right? Like,
hmm
let's be honest, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was born to be, right, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He really was. The Rock was born to do that. Michael Jordan was born to, right? My dad was born to be the Superfly and to wrestle, and I was born to be his son. I feel like part of my being born, everything has purpose, is that I was put on this earth to invite other people to inspire themselves, right?
hmm
You can be motivated, and that's good. You can be inspired. That's even better. What I like is when you, because of an example, because of your love or respect for somebody, like you have for people that you've described, or like I have for my father, is what they're actually doing is they're inviting us to go to the next level. Like, hey, try to do at least what I did, or do something like what, be great. That's what my dad was inviting me to do. He was inviting me to be great. Even though he didn't say it, that's what he was trying to give me. And so now I try to do something similar, where I really believe I'm here to invite others to inspire themselves and
That's
try to be great.
yeah, it's just really cool just to hear about you talking about your dad. Was your dad ever with you around when you were uh teaching and helping these kids? Was he ever like as a substitute to help out and everything? Was he ever around for those?
He was actually. He was at one point. He tried to get me to hire him. He's like, maybe we could work together. And he's trying. I wish I could have hired my dad back then. Oh man, that would have been great. Yes, very good question. I actually. So there was this player. He was trying to play Division I sports, and I was working with him one-on-one. And I actually, we were doing what we call like a walk and talk. We were walking around this training facility, and my dad was with me. And that's a great memory, because we were talking to this player, and he was really trying to make it and get on the team, and he actually made it on the team, right? He did really well there, scholarship, everything, and now now his sister actually played on the exact same team. It was her dream team to play for. Wow. It was his dream team to. So, yeah, that excellent question, man. Thank you for helping remind me of that memory. Yeah, he got to do that with me a few times.
That's cool.
And now actually, there was a speaking engagement I got to go to, and I got to take my youngest son, and he and I kind of did a tag team speaking at one of the events where I was speaking to a bunch of youth. So now we're coming full circle now, man.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Just and I could just see Jimmy and it's just you and him just tag teaming, just helping out with the kid. Like that's such a good story to hear. Like right now, what you're doing is amazing, and I know for sure he'd be proud right now. And like you said, he might not say it, but very well he would be very proud.
I believe so. I believe that's what my dad wanted me to do. And I'll share this, and we'll kind of bring everything together and close up here. Okay.
Okay.
I'll share it like this: is when I was in high school. Okay. So you got to remember, my dad's done with, like, the first WrestleMania is over. He's already been at this point the number one in the whole world in professional wrestling, right? At one point he was most popular wrestler, all of that, main event guy. So we're watching Michael Jordan play basketball, and on the TV, it's just me and him. We're in Hawaii, and my dad looks at the TV, and I'm sitting there with him, and he says to me, he goes, "Son, do you think you can be better than that guy?" And I look at the TV, it's Michael Jordan, right? Like, arguably the greatest player of all time. I don't think it's an argument, but arguably the greatest player of all time.
No argument. There's no argument. Right? There's no argument at all.
There's no argument. And he's asking me, can you be better than him? Now, I thought my dad was asking me, can I be a better basketball player than Michael Jordan? I liked to play basketball. I love to play sports, but I was by no means nobody was looking at me to pay me to play basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would take me 20 years, Josh, to figure out what my dad was actually asking me. So like I said, I've seen many speakers. I've studied many books, business, self-help, personal development, all of that stuff, classes. And 20 years later, the light bulb went off, and I realized what my dad was actually asking me. He was asking me if I could be great at something. Could I be great? He's telling me, I want you to be great. I've been great. Like I'm a great dad, a great provider. I've been great in my work and life. Can you be great? It's what he was inviting me to do. Like I said, it would take me a long time to figure out what he was talking about. and he's still teaching me. He's gone and still schooling me, right? Like Iron Man said, right? Like Robert Downey Jr. said in Iron Man, right? My dad's dead, but he's still schooling me. That's my dad.
Yeah.
Still schooling me on that type of mental thinking, that type of emotional fortitude, right? That's the kind of stuff we're talking about here, Josh, is if you think about greatness, if you think about I could be great at something, then you're going to go for it. But if you don't think it's possible, then you won't do it. And so I had always thought I'd be great at wrestling. I was not. I was very good. There was a lot of things I did well. OVW was probably not the highlight, but like at my best, like main event, all of that. We were that in OVW and thought we could have done that. I know we could have done it on WWE TV. It just didn't happen. We didn't utilize opportunities or didn't get the chance, whatever. I thought I would do it in professional wrestling. Maybe in a different way, I still will, especially with what I've got on my plate now, some of these projects I'm working on, maybe in a different way. But I believe, what I'm doing now is at least part of something that I can be great at. I do believe I can be great at this. And I maybe I'll help a lot of people and get a lot of great results. So in this way, to like what you're saying, Josh, is I'm honoring my father still. I'm still in a way utilizing the professional wrestling, but doing it in a little bit different way. And, maybe this is another way to help other people see, the great things you can get out of professional wrestling, right? There's a lot of good out of it.
That's really cool, man. Really awesome, amazing. And again, it's always great to remember some of the advice you remember, and you're just like you said, I know my dad's not here, but he's still giving me great advice. And even it was like advice like 20 or 30 years later, you're just like, that was a long time ago. But next thing you know, it comes back. You're like, so that's what my dad was trying to teach me. And he's like, I know you're just like, I know you're gone, but you're still teaching me, Dad. Like that's so, that's so cool. And now you're taking bookings. You're getting back in the ring. Are you still
Yes.
taking bookings?
So I hadn't been in the ring for probably 5 years. I hadn't done podcasts. I hadn't done any of this stuff for a while. And yeah, because of this project I'm working on. Again, remember the squared circle? Remember who's big time. Just remember that. One day that'll all make sense, I promise. It's going to be great. I'm absolutely certain wrestling fans, the world's going to love it. So when that happens, you'll know. And so because of that project I'm working on, I had to get back in the ring. I had to get on these podcasts. I had to start talking and basically getting myself ingrained in the business again because of preparation, right? We talk about getting prepared and doing that. I needed to get prepared. And so, yes, I am taking some select bookings in select areas, so you want to contact me, do that. Great. Best way, Instagram. J, like Jimmy, Snuka, Snuka 2, like the number 2, J Snuka 2 on Instagram. Message me in there and we can link up. So, Josh, thanks so much for having me on, man, and letting me do this. Let me talk, about all these different pieces of my life, what I've done, where I've been, what I'm doing now. It's I appreciate giving me the opportunity to do this. Hopefully, with all you're trying to do, that this can be helpful to what you're doing, man. I'm telling you though, Josh, main event mentality, baby. Have that fortitude that whatever it is you're going for, you can make that stuff happen. Just think of those great examples you've already had. They're inviting you, man. They're saying, Josh, go do that thing you're trying to do, baby. Go make it happen. And everybody else too. Okay.
I can't say thank you as much. No, I'm gonna say it again. Thank you, really, really thank you, brother. I really do appreciate you taking the time, just talking to me on my show, and it's just like it's a dream come true. Just like just feeling like this type of feeling, like, and just hearing your story is so amazing. And again, thank you. Really, thank you, brother. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully you come back to Oregon. I would love to see you wrestle. I would love to even see you in just if you're just coming down. I would love to see you and just talk to you again. I just had so much fun. And again, I haven't seen you wrestle since WWE, but just hearing your story, I'm a little kid again. I got that little kid feeling. It's just like I'm like that a lot with some of the wrestlers who I talk to. It's just the little kid inside me. It's just like, this is great, and your advice is so great. Like, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life now. And again, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it, brother.
All good. All right. Take care, Josh. Thank you for having me on your show. Stay strong and steady, my man.
Will do. And thank you all for watching. Thank you, Deuce, for being on the show. Really do appreciate it. Love you. So much respect. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Oregon Wrestling Observer. Go follow Deuce on Instagram and book him. Book him on your shows. Great. And love you all. Y'all take care and see you next time.
Broken bones from parts unknown, simplify wonders of why. Broken promises reveal